Hello and a warm welcome to the big kickoff with Betfred, where you get all the best tips and predictions from the Racing Post. Delighted to say, alongside Mark Langdon and myself, we have David Cartlidge and YouTuber Hughwizzy. Guys, good to see you.
Fantastic.
Should we talk Europe?
Let's do it.
Let's talk last season first. Mark, any doubts at all that Bayern Munich were the best side in Europe?
Don't think so. Won absolutely everything that there was to win. It wasn't only that they did it, I think they were able to win in different ways. You know, saw them smashing Tottenham and Chelsea and Barcelona. I mean, that kind of 8-2 against Barcelona, so much afterwards focused on Barcelona's problems, but to put 8 on a team like Barcelona, 7 away to Tottenham, I think one of their best performances was actually away to Chelsea. They were magnificent when they thrashed Chelsea. And then even in the Champions League final, when they probably didn't play at their best, they were able to win a different way, still kept a clean sheet, and that was the big question. Could the defence hold out Mbappe, Neymar, Di Maria? Well, they did. You know, they dominated the Bundesliga, they won the German Cup, they won the Champions League. It'd be difficult to argue against them.
You can't do any more than that, can you? They had different layers to them with each particular game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's great about Bayern, they're very, very well rounded. I think what I really like about them as well is when they see a team are there for the for the take, and they don't hold back. They go for it. They will beat you 8. They will beat you 5, 6. And I really like that about them. But they've got technical quality. They've got physical quality. They've got speed. They've got strength. They've got everything. They're a very well rounded, complete team, I think.
We all thought though it might be Manchester City's year. Pep said it's the chance of a lifetime, Hugh. Why didn't it happen for them?
He's made a few cataclysmic errors at the pivotal moments, and yet again, this tinkering proved to be their undoing. I would say that the fact that PSG, City have these bottomless pits of cash at their disposal means that it's just a numbers game, and probability says that they will be there or thereabouts in the coming season. So I wouldn't put it past Manchester City picking one up, especially if they are going to dip into the transfer market as heavily as is being reported.
I'll have to wait and see if this guy behind me
Indeed.
We went from 2 English teams in the Champions League final the previous season to none in the semi-final. Why is that? And do you think they'll be back to perhaps how we want it to be this coming season?
I feel like, I mean, in terms of, say, Tottenham were in there, but Tottenham had a pretty poor season. So they weren't at that Champions League level, and that can sometimes happen, you know, whereas, Chelsea, I mean, they ran into Bayern Munich, so just like anybody else that ran into Bayern Munich, the competition was over as soon as they did. I felt Liverpool were a little bit unlucky, I have to say. I mean, against Atletico Madrid, they dominated Atletico in the second leg. I think if Alisson would have been fit, they would have gone through. Adrian made 2 really bad mistakes. And Manchester City, I mean, they just blew it. So I don't see it as like this big Premier League crisis. I assume that Liverpool and Man City will be right up there this year.
What are we thinking then for the Champions League this coming season?
I can just see Bayern doing it again. I don't see any real genuine competition right now, unless Messi would change everything. If he went to City, then of course that changes absolutely everything. But right now, as it stands, without him signing, Bayern is still well ahead of everybody else. They're a bit more organised and more along in their process. If you look at the other teams who could be closer, they're either going through a crisis or a state of transition, or they just don't really look like they're ready for that top level yet.
How do you see it, Hugh? Who can compete against Bayern Munich?
Well, look, ironically enough, I think PSG were very close and really unlucky on the night not to come up against a goalkeeper with less quality than Manuel Neuer, who saved Bayern time after time with these incredible, outstretched legs of his. The reactions are something that he hasn't lost, even though it seems to be at the twilight of his career. I'd say PSG are really close, closer than people think.
Would you say a midfielder away? I think a good midfielder might have made that final a little bit closer. I think that's where it was lost.
Yes.
Thiago dominated that game. He was incredible.
Yes,
and I think
they may well even have the midfielder already in Marco Verratti,
yes,
who was missing for crucial moments and can, break between the lines and beat a man himself. So I think they'll be the closest of the competition. But the way that Bayern have learned how to deal with Barcelona's domination and that tiki-taka style, and then seen this new giant in Liverpool come across with this physicality football, they've perfected both styles, and they're the team to beat.
Liverpool would be scary if they do get Thiago, wouldn't they? Outsider, though, for you?
Oh, I mean, I mean, the man behind you there, if he stays at Barcelona and things sort themselves out, they're around about 16-1, which is unheard of for Barcelona, who are usually among the favourites. I can't see it sorting itself out, but football changes very quickly. So in a month's time, all this, Messi could have signed a new contract, and all of a sudden you look at Barcelona and think, well, at 16-1, like they're not so far behind. But
it's a good price. But Messi played in that game,
yeah,
didn't he?
He did. I mean, I think the team had just lost their spirit, though, and just gave up really against Bayern Munich. It's not really an outsiders massively sort of competition. I suppose Dortmund would be the one outsider that I would give a chance to, because they ran into Paris Saint-Germain in the knockout stages. They beat them in the first leg. Maybe could have got further ahead in that tie at home, and then didn't really show up in the second leg. But as it stands, again, Sancho could depart. But at the moment he's there, you got him and Haaland. That's a major threat for it. And the Bundesliga form has been boosted by the fact that, people say, oh, it's a bit of a weak league or whatever. It might just be that Bayern Munich are really, really good. And actually, Dortmund are doing quite well to at least sort of be in their eye line. So, I mean, they would be the outsider. In terms of the ones towards the head of the market, you mentioned Liverpool there and Thiago. I think Liverpool will still have a major say in it. They reached 2 finals in a row. Last season, I think it was about winning the Premier League for them. They then got really unlucky with losing Alisson in goal, and Adrian just wasn't up to the task. I think their first 11 is still really strong, and yeah, that'd be my tip.
No Spurs there.
No, we're Thursday night these days, Scott.
We've got to qualify for Champions League first.
Well,
What do you think in terms of outsider?
I think I'll always go with Atleti. Nobody wants to face them. They're such a horrible team to face in the cup competition. It's going to be back as well to being a normal, scenario in terms of the Champions League. I think some teams might be tired from their leagues as well. Atleti on the Champions League nights are just a different beast, I think. I think they focus all their attention on that competition as well. I think right now they know they can't or won't win La Liga, and I think they want all the players, all the fans, they really, really want it for Simeone as well. It's the one thing he just hasn't been able to do. He's got so close. I think I'd always back Atleti, but Dortmund's a great shout as well. I think if you're a club who have stars who could potentially be picked off and you keep them, you build with them for another year. They're a year older, they're more experienced, they understand the system better, a bit more mature. I think that goes in Dortmund's favour as well.
Outsider for you?
I think very similar to what David's saying, but I would apply it to Antonio Conte and Inter Milan, who've got massive investment financially from the Chinese ownership, and it looks like another year together with a couple of more big name signings, possibly from the Premier League that he's used to, can take them to another European final.
What about top scorer in the Champions League? And would it be fair to say if there was a Ballon d'Or for 2020 that Robert Lewandowski would have won it?
It's so unfortunate. I mean, to score over 50 goals, to win almost everything you're involved in, it does seem really unfair for the competition or the award ceremony to have been cancelled. That said, I'm sure that he can replicate it again. He's their main man, that's not going to be changing, and they're going to be more dangerous from wide areas with the addition of Sane. I'd expect him to get more goals next season.
That's scary. What do you think, top scorer?
Yeah, I think Lewandowski's a good shout, but I guess just to throw another name in there, I think Mbappe. You look at the people he has behind him, you look at Neymar, he's got behind him Di Maria as well. I mean, there's not many strikers who were supported in that manner. And like we said, Verratti would come in as well, and who knows, they might make another signing in midfield, somebody else creative. Got Sarabia as well. So, yeah, I think Mbappe. I think this could be, one for him.
An outsider?
Benzema? Can you class Benzema as an outsider? Nobody really. I always think he's very underrated. He doesn't really get much credit for what he does. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm going to take Benzema as my outsider. He's such a lovely player. He does everything, I think, along the front line. But he's also scored this season really well, and I think a lot of people would even prefer him over Lewandowski in their teams. He
had one of his best seasons ever, I think, just as well. And you have to say, to last at Real Madrid for so long, you've got to be some player, haven't you? But what do you think, outsider?
In terms of the favourites, I think Lewandowski he's getting better as he gets older. Takes the pens, plays for a very attack-minded team. I mean, the draw will be important because you want somebody to pick up a couple of kind of the mug teams really in sort of that group stage.
Hat-trick in a game.
Because that's where a player I absolutely love. I'm not sure that he's ever going to score as many goals as I think that he will. That's Martial at Manchester United. I just think he's so good. And I don't like it when people question about United need somebody else up front. I think he's good enough. I keep on expecting him to take his game to the next level. I think he moved up a gear the season we've just had. He would be somebody that I think I don't back him to necessarily be great over 38 matches, but I think he's somebody over a 6-week period, and the group stage is going to be really congested this season. He might be somebody that can pick up some cheap goals for a United team that's got goals sort of all over them, really.
Yeah, can get a good hot streak. What about the Europa League then? That's just as interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really, you look at the quality every year in the Europa League, and I know it's seen as this second-rate competition, but you look at the teams and you look at the players in there every single year, and again now it's looking again strong. You've got Milan in there, he's got as well. Who are really, I think, trying something big this summer. Villarreal as well, also. So I think Villarreal will be my tip, and I think Emery, he really loves a cup competition. I don't rate him that highly as a manager. And in a league situation, I don't fancy him at all. But when it comes to the cup, he's a different beast. And you look at the signings Villarreal have made: Coquelin, Parejo, they've got Kubo as well, on loan from Real Madrid. So they've done some really nice business, I think. And that's why I think I'd make them I'd get some good money on those as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. I won't ask you about Emery. Being an Arsenal fan.
No, I'd have to agree though, because I think it's an underrated achievement, the fact that he himself took Arsenal to the brink of Champions League football and European final himself. So I wouldn't put it past him and Villarreal doing similar, especially seeing as they're tying up such good deals like Coquelin and Parejo for next to nothing. That said, I find it difficult to look past Arsenal for the Europa League. The progress that Mikel Arteta is making already is very promising. 2 trophies in quick succession.
You're counting the Community Shield.
I am indeed.
It's a trophy.
And hopefully he is instilling that winning mentality amongst players who have had it easy for too long. So if they can secure Aubameyang to a new contract and potentially bring in a couple of other names who shore up the midfield, then yeah, I'd say Arsenal are favourites for that and should be there or thereabouts.
2 months ago I'd have said that's your heart speaking, not your head, but now they do look very organised indeed. What do you think?
I think the last 9 years, if you have a look at the Europa League, 6 wins for Spain. Most of those have been Sevilla, and 3 wins for the English teams. Even like the Spanish teams outside of Sevilla, Atletico Madrid, when they've dropped into it, have been very good. Even some of the kind of lesser teams, I'm going way back, Alaves, Espanyol, Athletic Bilbao. It's a competition that they take very seriously, and I think that therefore Villarreal would also be my selection, around about 20-1. Emery will take it seriously. Agree that they've signed picked up some ridiculous deals from the problems that have been going on at Valencia as well. So I'm always interested in the Spanish teams in this competition, and Villarreal look the best ones for now. I mean, we might see a Sevilla or whatever drop into it after the Champions League, and then they'd be right buzzed up for it. But for now, I'd probably say Villarreal.
I was just about to say about Sevilla as well. If they do happen to drop in, they will. They love that competition, don't
They might do it on purpose for all we know.
What about top scorers then in the Europa League?
This one's a hard one. I think if we're going to go for Villarreal, I'm going to go for Villarreal as the winner. So I think Gerard Moreno is an unbelievable striker. Really underrated. Bit of a classic 9 in a way, and he can be a target man, but he's also very mobile as well. And I think you look at the players, the creative players that he's going to have behind him. If Villarreal, he'll get plenty of chances, and he's going to be very much the focal point of that attack and that team leading them. So I could see him finishing top scorer.
You?
I mean, no surprises. He got 2 goals in the semi-final of the FA Cup, 2 goals in the final, another goal in the Community Shield. It will be Aubameyang if Arsenal are to make it far. Expect him to be top scorer. I know the odds won't be amazing, but it does seem to be, quite likely that does happen.
He's too good a player, isn't he, to be in that competition?
Unbelievable player. 22 Premier League goals in successive years. Golden Boot in his first full season in the league. And, they say that in your 30s that teams should be looking elsewhere, but he looks like he's getting better.
Yeah, scary. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Harry Kane dropping down the level from Champions League into
I knew you get Spurs in. If you
get
Arsenal, you get Spurs in.
Arsenal.
I knew it.
But I fear that there will be heavy rotation probably for a lot of these teams. Europa League, particularly in the group stage, probably isn't the priority. In terms of somebody, if he does start, Osimhen at Napoli has moved from Lille for they've basically they've just put everything on black in terms of, we've got to gamble here and bring in a top quality striker. They've gambled, they've brought in Osimhen. I think it's a good signing. I think he'll really do well at Napoli. I see no reason really why he shouldn't step up. And usually the Napoli strikers have had really good goal scoring records. Yeah. Mertens, even before him, Higuain was scoring lots of goals. They create a lot of chances. So Osimhen. Okay.
Let's have a look at the markets around Europe then, shall we? Start with Ligue 1, which of course has started underway. Can anyone at all get close to PSG?
I mean, quite simply, no. However, from what we've seen so far, the competition for European places is going to be epic. Obviously, Lyon will be there or thereabouts. However, I've been really impressed with Rennes so far, and Monaco look like they've put together a little tidy side. Have a look out for Patrick Vieira's Nice side as well, who look like they are beginning to have some kind of stability, and I would say that him as a manager as well is growing by the year, and I'm expecting European places, so you never know, a few shocks are possible.
Who would you back then in the without PSG market?
I think Lyon you'd have to go for, but even then it's PSG's league, isn't it? It's hard to see. But Lyon will, and it's going to be a strange year because with the season starting up again so quickly as well, and then PSG, I think there's an obsession there with the Champions League. If they take their eye off the ball for a minute, then Lyon, I think, will be there. They've got a very, very talented squad. They've always got good young players coming through. They'll always make smart signings. I think they've got a brilliant owner. So yeah, Lyon.
What do you think, 1 and 2?
I think PSG 1.
Yeah.
I would say Lyon 2. I'm just a little bit worried about Memphis being linked with Barcelona, which I think is that's a little. I like Memphis a lot. I think that might be a step too far for him. I prefer him.
Maybe not at the moment.
No, but I still think I prefer him to be like a star in a smaller team than him going to a really big team and being overshadowed and just being part of it. So I would say that it would be PSG 1 and Lyon 2. Just put a little shout out for Marseille because Andre Villas-Boas had a right old kicking when he was in the Premier League. He certainly sorted out his career. Thauvin and Payet and people like that are playing for him. They did really well last year. If Lyon do sell the crown jewels in the next month or so, then they'll probably be the ones to take advantage.
Okay, let's talk about La Liga. I know, Dave, you love it, as do I. It's a fascinating one, isn't it? Especially where we don't know if this guy is going to be at Barcelona or not, but even with him, they're in disarray, aren't they?
I think so, yeah. I think even if he stayed, I still think they're in a bit of a crisis, really, and there's a lot of things that need sorting, beyond Messi. But I think it's Real Madrid's year again. I think, you look at their recent win, they just didn't even need to be that good. They just coasted for a lot of that season. Is
that because they are good, or just because others are just in a bad place right now?
Yeah, I just think they're in a... I think they've got their own problems as well, don't get me wrong, Real Madrid, but I just think they've got lesser problems than everybody else. And that's why they'll always just be, for now, just be in control of things. I think Barcelona's got a lot of work to do, and they're going to be figuring it out, I think, what style of play. Barcelona keep going one way on a style of play with Setien. They went for a very expansive Barca DNA style football. They've got a guy who's a legend in Koeman, but he doesn't play Barca football, and that's what they've got to remember, and you've got to not expect him to come out with this amazing football as well. So I think they're going to be figuring out what sort of identity they have, I think, Barcelona, so that's why I think it lets Real Madrid in. And Atleti, I just don't think they're still a little bit too weak for me. They need a really, really good centre-forward, and I just don't think they're still going to get another one in. So.
You like Villarreal? Any chance there? Sevilla as well? Can they somehow make that?
I think Sevilla...
Big step forward.
I think Sevilla are going to be the ones who get amongst it. Like I say, I can see Emery just completely binning off La Liga. Don't think you've got to remember, before he went to Arsenal, he didn't win all year away from home with Sevilla when they won the Europa League. So that was at a cost. So I can see him doing something similar with Villarreal. Sevilla are going places. I think, they won the Europa League. I think they've got a great manager, Lopetegui. Things didn't work out for him at Real Madrid, but I would be surprised to see him back there one day, to be honest with you. I think he's got that stature about him. Benega's gone, but again, he's been replaced. Rakitic is back. They signed Oscar Rodriguez from Real Madrid as well. So they've got some young players, a bit of experience there. So I'm liking how they're shaping up, and it looks like they're going to keep their stars.
Tough for you to say, especially being a Betis fan, that I know you are as well. Hugh, what do you think, La Liga?
It will be interesting to see how they deal with losing their prized assets, if only because it does look like it's going to happen.
Do you think it will? We've had this conversation.
I really see...
Others have said no.
Okay.
I personally think it can.
I think it can happen, if only because everything is perfectly set in place at Manchester City. He's got people that he knows and trusts, friends, from a time in his life when he was happier and more successful, I guess. I think that the problems at Barcelona will take too long for him to achieve what he still wants to in his career, and as a result, you go to the highest bidder who can make the things that you want to happen. And
can he get out of the contract?
Well, it may well go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. You know, I'm talking like I really know the ins and outs of the logistics of it, but it does look like, being that he's got a year left on his contract, that even going through the courts would potentially lead to a way out. He seems to have made his mind up. What I would say though is that with Barcelona having a new coach, not really knowing, I don't think, what the style of play is going to be, and being reliant on it, kind of this memory of what Koeman did for the club, which is arguably the greatest moment in their history, that is kind of overwhelming or overshadowing an actual plan as it goes. So hopefully we see these massive changes, because obviously we want Barcelona to be involved in everything at the latest levels, but I think that it may well be without Lionel Messi.
But do you think it will be Real Madrid then for the title? Can anyone challenge them?
Almost certainly. There are just too many problems at Barcelona for it to happen that quickly.
Might Barca not even finish second then?
I think that they have too much talent on their books for it not to be a question of we beat most of the rest, but I just think that Atleti even are a step behind, and like David said, they need a really good centre forward to make that transition. They have such a history of classically great, strong centre forwards that it is interesting that they don't at this time.
I think Sevilla's the one to come into that second place. If Barcelona were to just slip down, lose too much talent, Messi does go, Suarez goes. Don't forget they did that stupid deal getting rid of Arthur, who's just such a brilliant midfielder for them, I thought, and settled in. They've got Pjanic. There's too much going on there. So Sevilla are the team who I see they could take advantage of it.
How do you see Spain?
I think Real Madrid pretty strong favourites actually. The Atleti's problem is that you don't fancy them to beat enough of the sort of lower teams because they don't score. You know, they'll have a 0-0 against somebody that, you know, Real Madrid will turn that, even if they don't play particularly well, they'll turn that in a narrow success. And you know, unless João Felix really steps up, and I'm not sure he's got the right coach necessarily to do that. You know, Simeone prefers a Costa or Morata type centre forward. I always thought it was a bit of an odd move to go for João Felix. I really like him, but you saw in that Champions League game, he might not have been fully fit. When he came on, he livened them up completely. But
he's not an Atleti player, is he?
I don't feel like he is. And Real Madrid, very strong defensively. Courtois started a bit dodgy, but actually really grew into that role as goalkeeper. They've got a really strong squad, lots of Odegaard coming back into it to freshen up the midfield as well. I suppose the concern would be if like Benzema got injured, but they won it last season and Hazard barely featured really in terms of what they were expecting for their money. So, you know, if you can get Hazard fit, you know, it makes them even stronger. Yeah, I mean, as the guys have already said, there's just too many issues at Barca. So
if we're thinking PSG for France, is it even more so Bayern Munich and in Germany? And again, is it Dortmund? I feel like there's betting without Dortmund, without Bayern. And I think that Dortmund are really strong favourites in this, and maybe should be even shorter than what they are. Mention them as potential Champions League sort of dark horses. I'm looking around thinking, well, who are the challengers for second spot in the Bundesliga? I mean, Leipzig always recruit well, but they've got a job on to replace Timo Werner. And then outside of that, Leverkusen are about to lose Kai Havertz, their best player, by a considerable distance. I don't really feel like Gladbach are in a position to get up to Dortmund's level. I think Dortmund are quite a bit clear in second spot at the moment. And when they played Leipzig at the end of last season, they were comfortable winners. And for all that Leipzig know how to bring in sort of players and sell them, and it's part of the whole model, I feel like replacing Werner's goals is going to prove very difficult for them. How do you see the German market?
Borussia Dortmund obviously seem to be everyone's little surprise package. They shouldn't be that much of a surprise. However, if they do lose Jadon Sancho, which I think should still be up in the air, that's a hell of a lot of goals and assists that they're going to have to replace themselves. They've just got an 18-year-old from Real Madrid called Ramier.
Oh yeah, the Brazilian, yeah.
And I just think they have an unbelievable eye for taking risks on these youngsters who turn out to be, the starlets of the future. If they can do that with a centre-back that they've picked up from PSG, we may well have on our hands again the potential of not only a shock in the Bundesliga, but also in Europe. But I would say, again, for me, the drop-off between them and Leverkusen is too much to even contemplate. As it stands, anyway.
Okay, Serie A, on the face of it, many would think Juventus, but it's fascinating with Pirlo in charge now, isn't it?
It's probably the most vulnerable that Juve have been, sort of in their era of dominance. I didn't feel like they were that. They only won the league by a point, but it was a bit of a false economy because they dropped off after they were champions. But I didn't feel like they were that much better than the rest anyway. Ronaldo's another year older.
He's only 5 years off retirement.
Yeah, but I just feel like with the whole team really that it's not in a great place. You saw it against Lyon when I think they deservedly went out to Lyon. Although it was on away goals and a bit of a dodgy penalty in the first leg, they didn't have a shot on target in the entire game. And I mean, Pirlo could be sort of the next Guardiola, or in 4 months' time, we could be going, how on earth did he get the Juventus job? And Inter must be smelling blood here. I mean, they've got a proven winner in Conte. They've got Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez up front. Got a lot of options in midfield. They should improve for a second season under Conte. Juve are odds-on favourites with the bookmakers to win Serie A, but I think Conte will see it as a disappointment if they don't go and win the league. And I'd probably back them to do so.
Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I've got Minto down in my notes as well, and I just think they're ruthless right now. I think they're going to pounce on that vulnerability and that transition that Juve are going through, and they'll win those games. I think where Juve will be figuring themselves out and potentially will draw a few games. But I'd say don't ignore Lazio as well. I think if you look at how brilliant they were up until the COVID pause, no team in Europe, I don't think, was hit harder and had a bigger drop-off in form after. They'd caught up Juve, they were looking very, very good. They had several players firing on all cylinders, Luis Alberto, Immobile. So I think if the season goes again, just no problems, I think Lazio could be a real threat with Inter.
Interesting. Most open in years?
Indeed, but I would say my favourites are Inter this time. I've got almost complete faith that Conte will get it done second time around. Another year of a similar squad with additional names, and they're really going to believe that they can take advantage of what has to be just a massive period of uncertainty. Pirlo had the job for the under-23s, I think, for 9 days before he was given the full role. So we don't know anything about him, or more importantly, how the players are going to react to him. How does a player who's achieved what Cristiano Ronaldo has take advice from someone who is new on the job and learning every day himself? Maybe Cristiano can step up into the, a kind of player-manager role himself, but...
I think he'd just want a manager role altogether.
They'd definitely pick himself.
The thing is, if Pirlo was the plan, they wouldn't have made him the under-23 manager. That makes no sense to give him that for a week and then promote him. So something happened when they got rid of Sarri that then meant that for whatever reason...
Do you think maybe they weren't expecting to get knocked out at the stage they were in the Champions League, that perhaps Pirlo was the next in line, but not for a couple of years?
No, I think there were still big doubts about Sarri even if he would have won that game. I mean, he never looked like a Juventus manager, he never spoke like one, never acted like one.
He didn't with Chelsea either.
No, I mean, basically we saw that football that we saw at Napoli just has disappeared in the last couple of years. And I think they would have made the change. I did wonder whether they were thinking Pirlo for a year and then get Guardiola or somebody like that. But if Guardiola gets Messi, he won't be leaving Man City. So it feels very odd. I don't understand it. I have to say, it doesn't make much sense.
So out of everything that we've discussed, what would be the one bet that you'd think that's the one we'd go for, whether it be European competitions or European leagues?
I think if there's a bet you could put on to make sure that every single team that won the league this season, their domestic league, I think they can see them doing it all again. I mean, I know we're about Inter as well, but Juve, you know that Juve could still be there as well. So everybody just do a repeat, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would bet against that, if I'm honest. I think that for Liverpool to keep up the kind of athleticism that they have been for so long now is going to be a real ask. And I would expect...
You're not going to say Arsenal are going to win a title,
No,
are you?
no. I'm not completely delusional.
I'm only joking.
I would expect... Look, I listened to Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, the chairman of Manchester City, giving an interview on YouTube, and just the ferocity of which they are going for everything every year should put the belief in Man City fans that they will get the job done this time around. I think that with a big centre-back addition, they are already a force to be, reckoned with. That is before we even contemplate the idea of them getting Messi, which to me just makes them absolutely untouchable.
I think for me, it'd probably be Real Madrid to win La Liga. I mean, they won it last season, and I mean, Barcelona, I haven't seen them getting any better. There's a considerable chance they'll get worse. And Atleti just, I don't think are good enough to kind of match Real Madrid over 38 matches. So looks not an open goal, but it certainly looks like a really good opportunity for Real Madrid to repeat.
Guys, absolutely great stuff. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much indeed. And that's it. Look, thanks for joining us for the best tips and previews on the big kickoff here from the Racing Post. Remember, if you do plan to bet, please bet responsibly. Bye for now.